My name is Dylan. I was 47 when my heart stopped in traffic on I-395. I died, and Jesus appeared to me. He showed me visions of government shutdowns, broken families, and leaders who cared more about power than people. He even revealed how Trump would bring division that could destroy America. That night, I died for 4 minutes. I died on the side of I-395 in Northern Virginia on January 15, 2025. Just a few miles from my exit. That night started out like a lot of others. I had spent the day hunched over my desk in a dull government building off the Beltway. What do I do for a living? Not too flashy. I handle contracts for the federal government. I make sure the paperwork is in order so that schools get money, veterans get their benefits, and bridges get built. The quiet things are what keep the country going. Or at least that's how it used to feel. For almost 20 years, I showed up every day, rain or shine, because I thought my small part of the world was important. Back then, pride swelled in me like the sun on my face after a long winter. I was part of something bigger. One signature at a time, we keep people safe. But these days, that glow had turned into a flicker. That week, more talks about shutting down had come out of the Hill. Congress is fighting again, with people pointing fingers like kids in a sandbox. The headline screamed, "No deal." My department was ready for the blow. Paychecks are on hold. Lights going out in empty hallways. I'd look at my screen, my heart racing, and think about the pile of bills I had to pay when I got home. The rent for our 2-story house in Fairfax. Eli's new soccer cleats. The art supplies that Grace keeps like they're treasures. Eli was 15 at the time, with long, skinny limbs and quiet storms. He'd slam the door to his room after school, put on his headphones, and get lost in a video game world where he could win every fight. I'd sit on the edge of his bed and try to find the right words. "Is school okay? Do you have something on your mind?" Most nights it's quiet. But once, when he looked up with red eyes from not sleeping, he said, "Dad, what if we can't pay the team fees?" It hit me like a punch. My steady job, the one I trusted, suddenly felt like sand slipping through my fingers. Then there was Grace, my 12-year-old fire. She liked to draw on anything she could find. Grocery lists turned into dragons, and napkins turned into starry skies. On weekends, we'd bake cookies, and flour would get all over the counters. Those times, they were my rock, but they even began to break. That night, as I tucked her in, she said, "What if you don't get paid?" "Do we need to move?" Her little hand held my shirt tightly, and her eyes were as wide as a fawn's. I swallowed hard and made myself smile. "No, kiddo. Daddy's got it all taken care of. But I couldn't shake the doubt that was eating at me. Lies to keep her safe? Or was it just my way of acting like I had control? Karen, my wife for 18 years, saw everything. We met in college, where she was always laughing and I was always reading. She teaches 3rd grade now, and I wish I could be as patient as she is with little kids. After the kids went to bed, we would fall asleep on the couch with her head on my shoulder and a cheap red wine glass between us. She'd tease me by tracing the lines around my eyes and saying, "Dylan's worried face." But her smiles got less and less. There were a lot of bills on the kitchen table, like electric, car insurance, and that annoying credit card. We would add up numbers by lamplight, and her calculator would click like a metronome to our stress. I would sneak downstairs late at night when everyone else was asleep, and the house creaked. With a cold cup of coffee in front of you, sit at the table and look out at the dark yard. Wondering if this was it, the slow grind of middle age when dreams get smaller to fit the budget. I didn't go for my morning run because I was too tired. I forgot to call my mom on her birthday and then beat myself up for days. Getting mad at Karen for no reason. A lost key, a late dinner, then lying awake, going over it in my head, feeling bad about it. "I'm sorry," I'd whisper in the dark while she breathed steadily next to me. She would roll over and pull me close. "We all make mistakes, Dylan." But the words stayed. Get it wrong. Yes, that was me. Steady on the outside, but falling apart on the inside. And what about faith? Don't get me going. I went to a small church in Ohio when I was a kid. On Sundays, we sang hymns and had potlucks. It felt like God was right there with me, like a friend talking over the fence. But here in D.C., where politicians make a show of themselves on TV while real people like us struggle to get by, it got old. On my way to work, I passed monuments that screamed greatness, but all I saw was traffic jams, both real and imagined. We ate ramen for weeks after one shutdown a few years ago. Coworkers are talking about getting second jobs and divorces. I'd pray while driving, with my hands on the wheel. Why did God let this happen? Aren't you supposed to fix things that are broken? No sound. Or worse, the news is full of stories about leaders who won't budge. Trump back then, getting people fired up with that fiery talk. "I'll turn it off before I give in," he'd yell. People cheered, but to me, it sounded like thunder before a storm. Families like mine were stuck in the rain. Some nights, I'd kneel by my bed with the Bible open and the words would start to blur. "Lord, do you even see us down here?" No loud voice. The only sound was the fridge. I told Karen I was tired and stopped going to church. The truth was that I felt numb. It felt like my heart had built a wall, brick by brick, to keep the pain out. But walls work both ways. They keep you in too. That fall, the air got cool, and the leaves along the George Washington Parkway turned gold. The work kept piling up. There were rumors that another shutdown was coming. My boss called a meeting, and he looked worried. Furloughs are possible. That night at home, Eli had a game. I sat in the bleachers, the rain misting my jacket, and cheered when he scored. Grace waved from the side, and her ponytail bounced. Karen put her arm around mine. She whispered, "I'm proud of you." For a moment, everything seemed perfect. But on the way home, alone in the van, the radio kept talking about shutdown threats. My chest felt tight, and it wasn't just because I was stressed. A desire to be important, to fix what seemed broken, to know that someone, anyone, had a plan. The exit ramp for Fairfax was coming up, but the traffic was moving slowly. The headlights looked like tired eyes. I rubbed my arm, and it started to hurt. I told myself, just tired. Took a deep breath, thought of Grace's drawing on the fridge, which showed a family under a rainbow, safe. Eli's rare smile after scoring a goal. Karen's hand in mine. But the pain got worse and sharper, like a hand squeezing my heart. "Not now," I whispered, looking up at the sky as it turned dark. The world shifted. Somewhere far away, horns were honking. And then, there was peace, a calmness I had never felt before. It was like a weight had been lifted, and for the first time in years, I could breathe. That drive was what broke me down. All the pain that I had been hiding, the worries about my kids, the stress on my marriage, and the doubts about God, came to the surface and were ready to come out. I had no idea that spilling over would put me right in the arms of someone who had it all. That calm, it felt like a warm blanket on a cold night. 1 second, I was holding on to the wheel, and the horns were blaring in the distance. My heart was pounding like it wanted to get out of my chest. What comes next? Things slowed down. My foot slipped off the brake pedal. The van pulled over to the side of the road, the gravel crunching softly under the tires. I remember thinking, this is it, very clearly. That's it for me. Fear hit me first, hard, like ice water being dumped on my head. What about Karen? The kids? Next week is Eli's game. The birthday cake for Grace that she loves with extra sprinkles. Unpaid bills and a shutdown coming. Who would clean up the mess? I gasped for breath, and my shirt ripped as I clawed at it. Oh God, no, please, not like this. All by myself on some dumb highway. But then, nothing fought back. No more tightness in my chest. No more spinning in my head. The edges of the world were blurry, like watercolor that had been smeared on wet paper. Sounds faded. The loud horns turned into a low hum and then stopped. Deep, pure silence. I floated up, or maybe the van sank down. Not easy to say. 1 minute, I was leaning over the dash with my cheek pressed against the cold vinyl, and the coffee stain from this morning was still sticky under my elbow. The next thing I knew, I was floating above it all, looking at myself from above. My body was there, limp like an old coat. Now there are blue and red lights flashing behind you. People in yellow vests leaning in, their voices muffled. Sir? Can you hear me? A jolt. The pads of the defibrillator hit the skin. My chest arched, but I didn't feel it. No pain. No pull. The highway shrank to a red ribbon of taillights snaking through the dark as I rose higher. Below was Northern Virginia, with boxy houses and porch lights on, like little beacons. Under the moon, the Potomac sparkled silver, and the bridges looked like old friends saying goodbye. Air rushed by, but it wasn't wind. It was tidy. Like after a summer rain, fresh and with hints of pine and earth. No fumes from the exhaust, no honks. Just me floating up with no weight. My hands, wait, did I have hands? I looked down and saw them stretched out, but they sparkled and had soft edges like fog. Like a child, wonder bubbled up. Whoa, I said to no one. Am I flying? The earth curved gently higher, like a blue marble with green patches on it. Stars punched through the black, sharper than I'd ever seen, with no city haze to dull them. I spun around slowly and laughed softly. Laughing? From me, after all that worry? It felt silly and free, like Grace spinning around in the yard with her arms wide open. But tears hurt too, leaving behind the van, the life, and the pain. A part of me reached back, like an invisible string pulling me. Karen, I said. I could see her face in my mind, with that crooked smile on it when we danced to old radio songs in the kitchen. Eli gives a fist bump after a good kick. Grace's hug was sticky with marker ink. I apologize, I told the stars. I tried to keep it together. But the string got loose. Not broken. Relaxed, like hands that let go after holding on too tightly. The fear went away, and in its place came a quiet knowing. This wasn't the end. It was a door that was opening. Next came the light. Not a burst, but a bright light. More like the sun coming up over the horizon, warm and sure. It was blooming in front of me, drawing me in. Golds, soft blues, and greens like new leaves swirled together. No sharp edges. Everything throbbed and felt alive, as if the air was breathing with me. I fell into it, or maybe it folded around me. A rush of sensations hit me. Warmth soaking my skin, deeper than any bath. Smells, like fresh bread baking, waves in the ocean, a stew made at home on Sunday, all mixed together. It feels good. There are also sounds, like a low, steady hum that sounds like a heartbeat, or a choir far away, their voices blending in a way that made my chest hurt in a good way. I slowed down, my feet touching. The ground? Soft like a cloud, but strong. What about grass? No, it's better. Fields of light, gently waving. And there he was. He stepped out of the light, tall and steady, wearing white robes that looked alive, moving like flames that didn't burn, with edges that sparkled gold. His face. Oh man, they were kind eyes, deep brown, and they held every story I'd ever lived. Hair that is dark, has a wave in it, and falls just right. But it was the grin. He knew me, so it was a gentle curve. "Jesus," I said, choking, voice low and shaky, like a kid who got caught lying, but not as hard. I fell to my knees. Did I have knees here? It didn't matter. The light grass bent under me, cool and kind. He got closer, his steps silent. "Take your time." His hand reached out with the palm up. There are scars there, though they are faint. "Dylan," he said, a voice like thunder wrapped in velvet, deep and warm, like a hug around my name. "My son, come. Rest." That's when it broke. Me, everything. Sobs came out, raw and ugly. I curled up with my face in my hands and my shoulders shaking. Years of holding back, the fears of shutting down, the prayers that didn't seem to work, and the walls I had built came crashing down. I can't," I said between gasps. "The kids, Karen, do your job. Why did you let it get so heavy, God? I wanted to believe, but it hurts. Everything hurts." Tears ran down my cheeks and burned, but they glowed here and turned into sparkles that fizzled out in the light. No shame, no hiding. He also knelt. Right there, in the dirt of my mess. His arm slipped around my shoulders and it felt real. Warmth flooded in, chasing away the cold spots I had been carrying for so long, like getting into the safest bed in the world after a storm. "I know, Dylan," he said in a voice that was almost a whisper. "I see every tear. You sat alone every night, wondering if I cared, the shutdowns that took away your peace, the pride in leaders that made you lose faith in them. I was there. In the kitchen, which was quiet, in Eli's locked door, in Grace's pictures. You were never alone." I looked up and hiccuped. His eyes were locked on mine, not judging me, but pulling me in. Love flowed out, thick as honey, sweet and never-ending. No conditions. Not, "But you should have prayed more." Just me. Seen. Whole. What are you afraid of? Gone. Home. This was where they lived. Not the house in Fairfax, where the garage is full of junk and the faucet leaks. With him, he said, "You're safe," and wiped a tear from my cheek with his thumb. Like a carpenter's hand, rough and calloused. Always have been. "Let it go, child. I've got you." I leaned in then, my forehead against his shoulder. Sobs turned into shudders, then sighs. The field around us hummed less, and the light wrapped around us more. There was wonder in the cracks, how the colors danced on his robe, and how the air tasted like forgiveness. Peace settled in, deep down. No more questions that scream. Be quiet. Held. But even in that grip, a spark flickered. Curiosity, like a question on the tongue. He pulled back slowly, with a twinkle in his eye. "There's more, Dylan. Things I need you to look at. About your country. The hearts that hurt like yours." His voice didn't give orders, it just invited. And at that moment, I nodded, wrapped in love that fixed every broken edge. Set. I trusted the arms that caught me when I fell, no matter what happened next. We sat there in the light, with his arm around me and the world humming like a lullaby. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, which was dumb because the tears had already gone away. Then I looked up at him. Those eyes. They had galaxies, but they focused on me like I was the only star worth watching. "More?" I said the same thing, my voice thick but steady. "About the country? My country." The words seemed small compared to the vastness, But he nodded slowly and confidently, as if we were having coffee and talking about the weather. "Yes, Dylan," Jesus said, and his voice wrapped around the syllables of my name like he liked them. "Your heart carries the weight of it all, the shutdowns that keep you up at night, and the leaders who choose walls over bridges. But it's more than just one person, one job, or one family. Come with me." He stood there and held out his hand. Rough palm, warm grip. I took it, and it was easy to get up. My knees didn't hurt like they did when I got home after a long day of bending over files. We moved forward, the grass whispering beneath our feet, and the light bending like a path just for us. There were sounds coming in, like whispers, shouts, and the sound of keyboards clicking. It smells, too, like old coffee in marble halls and rain on concrete. My stomach turned. "Lord," I said, "what is this?" "Truth," he said simply, holding my hand. "Look with my eyes, Dylan. Feel with my heart." We stood first in a big room. I knew it was Congress. Mahogany desks lined up in rows, and flags hung down heavily. But the air didn't feel right. Men and women in suits with red faces and pointing fingers across the aisle. "Traitor!" one yelled, spitting. "You're betraying America!" another person shot back. Papers were thrown around in a panic, and gavels were used for no reason. No progress, just noise, like thunder trapped in a bottle, bouncing off the vaulted ceilings. I held his hand even tighter. This happens every day, the fights that go on while we wait for checks that might not come. He nodded, and soft lines of sorrow appeared around his mouth. It was divine pain, like a father's for a wayward son. Yes. Dylan. Division. It's the seed they plant and water with pride, not just in these halls of power, in homes and in hearts. They scream to win, not to get better. And what about the people? They cheer the storm, thinking that anger is strength. His voice stayed calm. There was no thunderclap judgment, just the truth, landing softly but surely in my chest. The scene changed, as smooth as a sigh. A podium now, with bright lights shining on a face I knew too well. Donald Trump, chin jutting out, hands chopping the air. A sea of red hats and signs, like lions at a feast, roared. "I'll shut it down," he yelled, and the speakers echoed his voice, "before I let them walk all over us. Don't make deals with the losers." Applause stopped, and fists went up. But in this vision, I could see the undercurrent up close, eyes in the crowd, angry, not hopeful. A woman nearby held her sign tightly and snarled, hiding her fear. "Finally, someone is fighting back," she said, but her hands were shaking. My throat got tight. "Lord, that's what keeps me awake." His words on the radio, saying he would keep the line. But we are the ones who pay, with furloughs and empty fridges. "Why do you want me to see this? It's worse to see it clearly." Then Jesus turned to me and put his free hand on my shoulder, tracing a slow circle with your thumb, like you would to calm a child. "Because it starts in the heart, my son. Pride tells leaders, it's your way or nothing. Stubbornness says, compromise is weakness. And the people? They follow, making politics their god and the thing that saves them from everything that scares them. Dylan. Trump is a mirror, not just the cause, but also a sign of the sickness inside. Not swords at the gates, but fists turned inward make nations fall apart. Shutdowns aren't just fights over money. They show that souls are split, and power is more important than people. Tears came back, hot and new. I could see it now. Flashes of light coming from the vision. My own office, where the lights were turned down early and co-workers huddled around space heaters. Maria, with empty eyes, whispered about how her daughter's braces weren't being paid for. Then home. Karen was at the table counting coupons, and her laugh was brittle. Eli is in his room with the door closed, looking at feeds full of rage memes that say, "Drain the swamp," and echo the divide. Grace asked, "Daddy, why is everyone on TV so mad?" Her little world fell apart before it grew. I got down on one knee, and the light grass gave way. "It's all connected," I said, my voice breaking. "This is where my doubts came from. Seeing them bet on lives like poker chips. I asked you, God. I thought you might have turned away and let the mess get worse because we deserved it." The words came out like skin that had been peeled off. Things that hurt me deeply, like when I snapped at Karen over a late bill, skipped prayers for worry scrolls, or hugged Grace tightly but felt miles away inside. He knelt down next to me, with no throne between us. His face glowed with a faint, divine light that pulsed like a heartbeat. But his touch stayed human, calloused fingers lifting my chin. "Oh, Dylan," he said softly, his voice thick with sympathy, like honey over gravel. "My love doesn't change because of your questions. I see the boy you were, running after fireflies in Ohio fields with an open heart. The man you became, sitting at that desk and signing forms to feed the hungry and house the lost. The father who misses Eli's storms and Grace's wonders. I was there for every late night and every 'Why, Lord?' whispered to the dark. Never turned away. Never will." A sob broke free, but this one was lighter, relief breaking through. His words came in as cool as river water on hot skin. Getting better. Real. Getting into the cracks. "But the evil," he said, looking straight ahead. "The forces that turn good men evil. They do well when they are alone. Pride says, 'You're right, they're wrong. Fight harder.' Division says, 'Make your group and stay away from the other.' It wears suits and gives speeches in Washington. It hides in fights over dinner at home, with one side saying, 'My side is saving us, yours is ruining it.' What about Trump's rallies? Echo chambers of that whisper, turning pain into hate. Shutdowns come next. Doors are locked, not on buildings, but on mercy. Families break up. Companies go out of business. The wave? From Capitol Hill to Fairfax cul-de-sacs to small towns, where factories are closed and dads like you look at empty wallets. I nodded, my chest heaving. The vision got bigger. Now there were families, and shadows in kitchens lit by phone screens. A dad with a face like mine opened the fridge. The shelves were empty, and the milk carton echoed. "What's for dinner, Dad?" the kids ask. His shoulders sagged in defeat. In another scene, a mom who works for the federal government, like Karen, is trying to get through to food banks, while her wedding ring twists nervously. "We served this country," she tells a friend, her voice breaking. "And now?" Small businesses closed, and signs saying, "Closed Gov't Delay," were peeling in the rain. The pain was thick, like 1,000 quiet hurts I'd lived through. "Why let it, Lord?" I asked, not angry anymore, just honest. "The devil's hand in this? Using pride as a tool? It seems too big. Like we're all pawns." His smile was soft, with a hint of sadness at the edges, but his eyes were full of light. Divine fire, tempered with love. "Yes, the enemy plants weeds in good soil. He fans the flames of self over service and grudge over grace. But Dylan, I am the gardener. My Father plants seeds of hope in every storm." Take a closer look. The scenes got warmer, with gold threads weaving through the gray. In that room, a quiet senator with a lined face and a raised hand, not in anger, but in plea. "For the families," she says, her voice steady. A few heads nod, and the walls crack a little. A man in the crowd stops at the edge of the rally and lowers his sign. He turns to the person next to him, who is wearing the opposite hat, and says, "Hey, you have kids too? Is this hard for you?" A shared nod. First bridge. Look? Jesus leaned in, and his breath was like spring wind. I always give people chances. In the middle of all the noise, a quiet voice said, "Love your enemy. Serve, don't hate." For leaders, humility means being willing to listen and bend, not in parties, but in me, unity for the people, prayer before posts, hands joined across tables, aisles, and fences. God's love? It's the rain that makes those seeds grow, pouring steadily, washing away pride. I died for every heart in that crowd, every hand that signed a bill, and every child who asked why, to break the chains that keep them apart, to show real power kneels, not clenches. Breakthrough hit then, like the sun breaking through the clouds. I took a deep breath. What about the numbness? Not there anymore, replaced by fire, which is warm, but not burning. "You love them all," I whispered, feeling amazed. "Even the people who yell, the people who start the shutdown. Me, with my doubts. There were a lot of tears, but there was also joy, like Grace's laugh. His words healed the scars on my trust from the shutdown, and the fears my family had that were like thorns pulled gently. I saw myself in a new way, not as a frayed thread, but as a part of his tapestry. Lord, it's not politics that keeps us safe, it's you, changing hearts from idols to this. I pointed at him, the field, and the flashing light. All of it. He pulled me up and held me tightly, but not too tightly. Yes, my son. When people look away from screens and stages and at the cross, healing begins. When us versus them turns into we, your children. I've given you tools. My word, like a light in the dark. People coming together, not complaining, churches opening their doors to people who have lost their jobs, and neighbors sharing meals. When one heart turns, the odds go up. Dylan, that's why I show you. Then, reluctance came in like heavy anchors. The edges of the light got dimmer, or maybe my eyes got blurry. A pull, weak but strong, like gravity remembering me. "No," I said, stepping back and tightening my grip on his robe, which was soft as lamb's wool and warm as a hearth. "Lord, stay here. This peace, your love, it's everything I wanted but couldn't have. Eli, Grace, and Karen are all tough. They'll be okay. But what about me? Back there? The fights and the news that made things worse. I can't do it. Please, please let me stay. Serve you here." His face softened even more, and the lines of pain on his face became deeper. He held my face in his hands, with his thumbs on my cheeks, and a divine glow flared up like the promise of a new day. "Oh, Dylan, your heart is already singing home, and it is, and it always will be. But what about your family? They need your arms and your voice shaped by this. Eli's storms, he'll get through them better with a dad who knows my peace." Questions from Grace? Tell stories of light, not shadows, when you answer. Karen's quiet power. Hold her closer and pray together through the bills. I shook my head and cried. But the country, Lord, the pride is killing us. What can I do to stop that? One guy from Fairfax? A low chuckle came from his chest, not mean but kind, like a dad making a worried kid laugh. Don't fight, Dylan. Shine. You know what the sickness is. Now you need to bring the cure. Tell the blind people what I say, the hearts that are lost in the fog of division. The affected children are all of my children, not just little ones like Grace. They are grown up and in pain, blinded by rage at the love that is waiting for them. Tell them that shutdowns hurt bodies, but pride hurts souls. Getting better? Look at me. Don't curse leaders. Pray for them. Look for unity in the church, not in the ballots. I have prepared you. Your tongue is free and your heart is healed. Go. Be my voice in the storm, and know that I'll take every step. Never alone. The pull got stronger, the world tilted a little, and I heard sirens, beeps, and voices calling my name. I held on tighter, my forehead against his chest, breathing in the scent of home and peace. Promise? I mumbled, like Eli when he was 5 and scared of thunder. Promise, he whispered, kissing my forehead. The words were like an oath. There's no greater love than this. I go ahead of you. Get up now, my faithful one. Your story is just starting. Light flared up brightly, swallowing up the scenes, the field, and him. But his touch stayed with me, warm print on my soul. And as the veil got thinner, the reluctance burned sweetly, not bitterly. Fear didn't have any teeth for the first time. Only the mission. Just love. One breath, and I was pressed against Jesus' chest, his promise ringing in my ears. I'll walk every step. What's next? Things fell apart. The metal was cold against my back. Beeps sound like alarms, hands on my chest and voices overlapping. We got a pulse. Dylan, don't go. The air burned my lungs, which were raw and thin, like breathing through wet cloth. My body, oh my God, hit me like a freight train. Heavy limbs and pins and needles all over. The chest throbbed where the defib had zapped, and the skin was sticky with sweat and gel. Eyes opened to bright lights and faces blurred in yellow vests. He's back, one said with a lot of relief. But I gasped and flailed, and the perfect piece broke like glass that had been dropped. No, I said weakly. Him. I was with Jesus. They looked at each other, maybe out of pity or because of the drugs they were taking. Tubes ran down my arm, and machines whined. The light? Gone. Just the white walls of the hospital and the stale air full of antiseptic. Shock held me still, my heart racing not from fear of death, but from limits, flesh and bone, holding in the vastness I'd felt. As we sped toward hospital, the sirens on the ambulance went off. I lay there, staring at the straps on the ceiling, and my grief grew quickly and strongly. That love, endless with no edges, was ripped away. It's like waking up from the best dream to a gray Monday. Lord, I whispered, and tears ran down my face. Why pull me? It was home. The pain was worse than the chest pain, and made me feel empty. His hand on my shoulder, and the field came to life with visions. I had begged to stay, and now? This. Tubes. Beeps. A world full of threats of shutdowns and closed doors. But then his words came back to him, steady as an anchor. Shine, Dylan. Be my whisper. Determination flickered, small but strong, not just sadness. Goal. I'd take it back. The truth about how pride is poison and the call to turn hearts to him. For Eli's bad weather, Grace's amazing things, Karen's fears that she doesn't talk about, and yes, for the nation that is blind. Okay, Lord, I said quietly, my fist gripping the sheet. I'll go. But don't let go. After that, weeks went by in a blur. Doctors poked and prodded, saying it was a heart attack and that the patient had been dead for 4 minutes. Miracle you're here, one doctor said quietly as he wrote notes. Karen slept in the chair next to me, holding my hand. She had dark circles under her eyes that looked like bruises. I told her about the light, the visions, and Jesus' gentle warnings. My voice was shaky and my throat was sore, but she didn't laugh, just held on tighter, and our tears mixed. I felt you leave, she said in a whisper. Prayed you back. The kids? Eli was awkward at first, like he was 13 and scared, but one night he broke down. "Dad, you scared us." I hugged him, all elbows and height, and spilled more, the love that saw every hidden hurt. Grace got on the bed and used her markers to draw on my cast. "Jesus gave you a hug? Like this?" She put her little arms around my neck. Laughter broke through the sadness and made it easier. They didn't get it all yet, but they saw me in a new way. Edges that are softer, eyes that stayed. Everything changed when I got home. That 2-story house in Fairfax, the garage is still messy, and the faucet still leaks. But what about me? Rewired. Quiet but real. Priorities changed. Work came first. My desk was waiting for me, with forms piled up like old friends. Before, I'd dive in, working long hours and nights to get that steady badge to stay ahead of the bills. Now, I punched out right at 5. I'd say family first to Maria, my coworker, as I packed my lunch. She raised an eyebrow, but I meant it. Eli had practice one night. Dylan, before he died, could have begged off because of deadlines. Now, I put on my sneakers, drove him, and sat on the bleachers with a thermos of hot chocolate. "Pass it here, Dad," he'd shout in the middle of the drill. I'd throw it over and smile as he nailed the kick. No checking of phones, just us, the field muddy and slick under the lights. "You're different," he said later, in the light of the van. "Like you're really here." I nodded, but my throat was tight. "Yes, I am, Bud. Saw what was most important." Karen also felt it. That hit hard. Relationships over money. We had counted things like lifelines before, and her calculator was our bedtime story. Now, no spreadsheets on the couch at night, just real talks. "Do you remember our first date?" I would say, following her knuckles. She'd laugh, that crazy girl from college, and we'd sway slowly to the radio while the kids on the stairs giggled. I stopped twisting the ring because I was worried about the bills. Instead, he prayed for them, and his promise echoed in their ears. "I've got you." Whispers of a shutdown leaked out again one night. Early signs of 25. Karen got tense as an old fear came back. I pulled her in close. "Don't worry, love. Hearts change. We look to him. Health over time sealed it." I ran the Parkway Trail in the morning, taking slow laps and hearing the leaves crunch like they did on that fateful drive. No more skipping. I'd tell myself that my body is a gift, even though my lungs were burning. Felt his steps matched mine as he walked next to me. Compassion grew so big that it spilled over our walls. When talks about furloughs got heated at work, I didn't complain. "Heard. Maria complaining about school fees?" I'd say softly, "Let's pray." She'd blink, but we'd bow our heads quickly, right by the copier. "Lord, give." Later, her smile, thankful spark. My coworkers whispered about my episode, but when I told them about the visions of divided halls and Trump's rallies full of pride, I could see it hit. Not preaching, just be honest. Jesus showed me it's the hearts, people. Not only budgets, we have to pick love over the fight. One guy, Tom, from accounting, cried. "My wife works for the government too. This really hits home. We started a lunch group where we just ate sandwiches and told stories, from complaints to grace. Church pulled me back, doors I'd avoided before death. Now on Sundays, Grace was on my lap in the front pew, and Eli was slouching but listening. I spoke there first, with a shaky voice. I died on I-395. Saw Jesus. He warned that division would tear us apart from the inside. There were gasps and nods. People talked about their pain. Jobs lost during past shutdowns, and families torn apart by anger on the internet. I felt a lot of compassion for them and the leaders I had cursed. Pray for Trump and Congress, I'd say, not hate. Jesus loves them just like he loves us. Afterward, a woman who was a widowed federal retiree hugged me. Thought God forgot about us clerks? Thank you. What did she say? Gas. I went to places like VFW halls and community centers to spread the word, healing's in him, not headlines. A few months later, October 2025 arrives with cool weather and leaves piling up on the curbs like prayers that haven't been answered. I sit in the kitchen with the TV low and the news droning on about the shutdown that started on October 1st, and Congress is stuck again. Trump's voice rings out as defiant as ever, and the crowd cheers for the standoff. Tears come, but not like before. Vision burns fresh. Those empty fridges and rooms where people point fingers. But now, eyes that last forever. Dylan, this world is a breath. Shutdowns hurt, but souls, that's for good. Pride is the real thief. It steals our unity while we fight. I turn off the set and call the kids down. Meeting with the family. Grace runs in, and Eli follows with a shrug. Karen pours tea, and the steam curls up in a hopeful way. What's going on, Dad? Eli wants to know. I smile and pull the chairs closer. Just thankful. For us. For him. Then we pray, our hands linked and our voices blending. Lord, change hearts. Bring people back together. Show your love. That drive home months ago, the pain in my chest and the world turning black, it goes around now, not as a scar, but as scar tissue that is stronger and more flexible. Every day I drive on I-395 and look at that spot on the shoulder. Say thanks in a whisper. No more walls that are numb. Faith is alive and beating. Do you have any doubts? It creeps, that's true. Bills bite, but news bites harder. But what about his arms? Deeply remembered. He said, "You're safe." And yes, I am. If you're reading this and feeling the grind, the worries about your own Eli or Grace, the shadows of the shutdown on your table, listen to me. You can be seen. Jesus knows about every crack and every late night. Why? He loves you like crazy, with no strings attached. The mess in the country? It's a trap of pride, but His grace is the way out. Stop looking at screens, sides, and saviors in suits. To Him. Be brave when you pray. Love strongly. Come together in the church, not in echo chambers. One heart changes and ripples start. Maybe yours today. Stop fighting and look up. He's waiting, with His arms open and a light blooming. There is still a home. It's also calling you back. And what about me? I'll keep whispering that. We don't just get through the storm because of His love. We dance through it,